Oh, are you coughing? Hi. Hello. Hi. Hi, guys. That's Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Doesn't she look like Audrey Hepburn? And let's go see Violet. Hi, Violet. Oh, let's turn the light on so you can see Violet. Hi. And there's Violet. Hi, sweetheart. Oh, I'm sorry I flapped your back. Hi. Whoops. You're so good. You're so sweet. Hi. Violet somehow always knows when she's on camera, and she does not like it. Oh, oh, you're almost liking the scratch. But that's Violet. Hi, sweetheart. And there's Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Oh, they're so good. So those are the puppies in their natural habitat. And that's where they're happiest. I'm gonna go outside. Oops. Hi, how are ya? Welcome back to my channel. I am in Atlanta. I'm gonna leave the door cracked in case they want to join me. Are you gonna join me? Rachel's gonna join me. Hello, Rachel. Rachel comes out. Hi. You wanna come outside and hang out with me? All right. I'll thank your sister. Well, later. All right. Oh, let's take a little look at the backyard in June. This is almost July. We've got some fish in the little pond. You can't see, you can see the golden ones. You can't quite see the black ones. They're all over the place. And it's just so verdant back here. It's just so beautiful. Oh, I think, well, there's Rachel and Violet. Violet's gonna come out. Violet's gonna come out. Hi, Violet. You gonna come out? No? Oh my God. All right, so let's kind of come over and hang out, chat a little bit, answer some questions. How are you guys doing? So I'm sorry for the camera wiggle. I'm not using a tripod. I'm using my little trusty selfie stick. Rachel, you want to come over? No? I think Rachel has smelled a squirrel. All right, so I figured I'd answer some questions for you, and it's such a beautiful day. The last 2 days I've spent at Six Flags over Georgia and had a nice time, but each day it rained for like 3 or 4 hours. Yeah, so I hung around the park for 3 or 4 hours both times. Got some good riding in. It was fun. It was just a little stressful because of the rain. Today would have been perfect, but I'm going to head back to Las Vegas this evening, get some housework done, and then I'm going to go to New York. I'm flying to New York on the 30th, primarily to go fabric shopping. Yes, you too, when you're a flight attendant, can cross the country to go to a fabric store or something similar. I'm going to go to Mood, which is a fabric store you may have heard about if you've ever seen Project Runway. That is a fantastic fabric store. I want to get some holiday sewing done for myself or for gifts. And then my favorite thing in the world to do, and I really do hope I get to do this, is go to a chocolate shop that's near Central Park. It's close to the Met, and where I'll buy some macaron and a little eclair or two, and then make my way over to the Central Park Lake. Oh, yeah, Rachel found a squirrel. She's off like a rocket. And you can actually rent a rowboat and hang out on the Central Park Lake. And I row out to the middle. Everyone else kind of circles around. And I'll sit there and I'll eat my eclair and I'll eat my little macaron and I'll just look around the park and the skyline of New York and just breathe. It's so nice. But so that's my goal. My number one goal is to go to the fabric shop. Number two would to be go to Central Park and hang out on the lake. So I told you that I was going to answer some questions. How about I get to it? All right. So first question. I think Randy, one of my subscribers, Randy, asked this question. She asked, if offered a job as a trainer, would I take it? And if so, how much money would it take? So, yes. The short answer is yes. I would love to be an in-flight instructor or trainer. Um, I've looked at the job listing for our website on our website for our airline, and I already qualify to be a trainer in a couple ways. Number one, I have all the experience required, and I have the time under my belt as a flight attendant. And there's a word that I keep seeing in the job listing. It must have been listed 4 or 5 times, if not more. Compassion. I think the word compassion, yeah, it's been tucked into that job listing again and again and again. There's a few trainers that we have that are very, very effective, and they're super talented, and people who are trained under them love them. Personally, I'm not in love with their style. They're much more, oh, look, we've got the two girls have come out. Oh, they're peeking out. There they are. They're out on a little adventure. Um, they've been out all day, so I'm surprised they're coming out again. Some of the instructors we have are very, very strict. One in particular that I witnessed, he was not my trainer. And I would like to think I could bring a little bit more compassion to the position as an in-flight instructor. I would have to really try to remain emotionally balanced because I tend to get very emotionally invested in people I'm training and that I'm mentoring. And I want them to succeed every single time. But in training, when someone makes seemingly simple and seemingly small mistakes, they're out. They're done. Kaput. And I know that I would be heartbroken. I would be heartbroken after each one. So I would have to really learn how to become a little bit more emotionally balanced if I were to go into in-flight. How much money would it take? In-flight training for us happens in one base. It's in Fort Lauderdale. We do recurrent training in Vegas and in Dallas as well, I believe. But I would have to move to Fort Lauderdale, and I'd have to be able to afford to live in Fort Lauderdale. I don't like having roommates, so I'd have to be able to afford a very small apartment on my own. I don't need a lot of space. I used to live in a van, so I don't need a lot of space. And I would need a car. I don't have a car right now, it died. I would need a car if I lived in Fort Lauderdale. So I'd have to probably make $10,000 or $15,000 more a year than I make now. So whether or not I'd be worth the investment, who knows? But I do have hopes of being an in-flight trainer at some point. Maybe once I've flown enough and once I've seen enough of the country. Because in flight, you don't have the flexibility that a flight attendant has or the amount of time off. So I'd really have to get this out of my blood, if it ever would come out of my blood, in being a flight attendant. So yes, I would love to be an in-flight. Yes, it would take a little bit more money, a fair amount more. And then we'll see. We'll see. I'd love to do it. Preference for a position A, B, or C, and why. So succinctly, in our airline, position A flies lead. They fly up in the front galley. B is mid-cabin, and they are mostly passenger-facing, guest-facing. And C is always in our aft galley. C does the pre-departure announcement and the safety demo. A does all the things that A does, staying in contact with the flight deck, and they make a lot of the other announcements, all of the other announcements. And they're the person who is not responsible, more of a liaison between the cabin and the flight deck. So whatever happens in the cabin, something good, something bad, the lead is the person who is the liaison between them, and that could be with anything from a medical to a possibly intoxicated guest, to seat duplications, to the fact that we can't move on the taxi because a guest has popped into the lavatory. Whatever. So lead is has to be wear a lot of hats and be very flexible. They also set the tone for the flight, even with something as simple as boarding, how they greet people, and the tone of their announcements. So I prefer, and it will not be a shock to any of you, A. I really do enjoy being lead. The last time I flew lead, we were on a 321, and my chaser, who is position E on a 321, was in awe of how many people were saying thank you personally to me for making their flight more enjoyable. Thank you for your humor. Thank you for the attitude. Thank you for the energy. Thank you for being so funny. That was a great flight. And she was like, wow, what did you do? What did you say? And she spent a lot of the time in the back. So she didn't really see me interacting with our guests as much. But as lead, particularly, I think it's important to set a positive tone and have a nice time. And it always makes for a better flight. So I prefer position A. B would be my second choice because it's more guest facing and I get the chance to actually chat with more of our guests and have a more interaction with them. And it's my favorite part of the job. Even something as simple as compliance checks, making sure seatbelts are fastened, bags are tucked under the seats, seat tray tables are up, armrests are down. I enjoy all of that because it really offers me a great opportunity to have fun. C is probably my least favorite position, mostly because it has the least amount of interaction with guests. You're kind of stuck in the back, which is why a lot of people like position C. If you're not into it that day to be involved with all these people and all that talking and blah, 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 then you might want to be position C. I prefer A or B. Chaser positions in our airline, we have a D position on a 320, and we have a D and an E on a 321. A D is more like another B on a larger aircraft, also responsible for mid-cabin responsibilities. E on a 321 does some cabin work in terms of compliance and stuff, but they seem to be more, they help the lead out, I think, most often. They do service and stuff like that. So I think E probably has a little bit less to do than D and B. But as a chaser, I'd prefer D. But so those are positions I prefer. Do I ever think about mentoring future flight attendants to get their wings? Well, yes, not a surprise. That's actually part of why I have this channel. When I went to get this job, I watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos of other flight attendants. I started with Fly with Stella. I was watching Megan Kelly, Trolley Dolly. There was an American flight attendant that is no longer a flight attendant, and I can't think of her name. She was out of Charlotte, I think. Nice girl. Who else did I watch? Fierceness. I love Fierceness. I love me some Fierceness. She's got to be my favorite. I watched it. Oh, the girls have found something. I watched a lot of videos, and not that I think I offer much different than they do, but I offer something different. I think I do. So I wanted to film my own videos and offer my experience and my own tips and tricks into getting the job, keeping the job, and maybe encouraging people as to why I think this is the best job in the world, and encouraging people to reach for their wings. And So I think I do a little bit of mentoring here. In my recovery life, and I do want to do a video. I was going to do it yesterday, but I was at the amusement park. I want to do a video about my recovery at some point. It'll have nothing to do with being a flight attendant. But in staying sober for 16 years, which was my anniversary, was yesterday, 16 years. Oddly enough, also the 49th anniversary, I am 49 years old, of the Stonewall riots, which were an really important beginning to the very, very modern fight for equal rights for the LGBT community. The fight had been going on for long, long before that, but the Stonewall riots were apparently an important part of making things actually change. So my anniversary was yesterday, as well as that important anniversary. Um, so in my recovery, mentoring, which we call sponsorship, is vital to your sobriety. If I'm not helping somebody else stay sober, um, I kind of slip backwards in my own habits. And the chances that I'll drink increase if I'm not trying to help somebody else or if I'm not being active in my sobriety by helping other people. So I think the same thing could be true about being a flight attendant. If I'm not thinking about other people, if I'm not trying to help other people, new flight attendants, I have a feeling it's easier to slip into complacency and to fall back into some bad habits and eventually maybe not love my job or not be the best flight attendant I could be. So I think mentoring other people, even if it's something as simple as being available to a new flight attendant who's standing at the computer trying to check in, just being of service to other flight attendants, I think lessens the chance of becoming complacent. So I think I answered that question. And the last question I'm going to answer, because this one, I'm not sure if I can continue talking after this question. Is it beneficial to go to a flight attendant training school before becoming a flight attendant? So the biggest problem I have with that question is not the question itself, but the way that some people react and respond to that question, particularly on Facebook. Some people on Facebook, I think because they think they're anonymous, you're not. We see your profile. You can say things that you wouldn't say in public. And the way people respond to some innocent people asking this question is reprehensible. And I find it's shameful in how people respond to other people's questions on Facebook. So, if you're in the Philippines, if you're in Asia, if you're in some other country where the rules about being a flight attendant are very strict, and I don't think Americans even have a clue as to how aspirational the job of a flight attendant can be in the Philippines, for example. Um, it is tremendously difficult to get this job, and they have to go through all sorts of additional training before getting this job and even having a chance to interview. So, if you live outside the country, I believe you probably might want to go to flight attendant training school. Not if you're probably not if you're flying for Ryanair, or something like that. But if you want to fly for, any of the Asian airlines or the Philippines or something, you're probably going to want to go to a flight attendant training school. If you live in the U.S. and maybe parts of Europe, I don't know anything about Europe. If you're a European carrier, or Canadian or Mexican or any of those carriers, let me know. If you fly for Copa, do you have to go to training before becoming a flight attendant? But in the U.S., I would say it's probably more of a handicap going to training school. Like, I just realized I must be in the worst shadow possible. I apologize. And I've been wearing sunglasses the whole time. That transitions. So, not that the shadows are better, my bags are worse. In the U.S., I think it's probably more of a handicap to go to a training school where you're going to learn a lot of procedures, announcements, evacuation drills, equipment, and chances are all of that will be very different once you actually go to training for your airline. Um, And it's harder to break a habit and start a new one than it is to start a new habit, I believe. The people who came to our airline from Mesa, for example, had very different aircraft, had very different doors, had very different evacuation drills, different equipment, different aircraft, everything. And some of them they recognized that it was difficult to learn the new drills and equipment and all that. Whereas I was starting from scratch, I was not working with a handicap. So, would I do it in the US? No, I wouldn't do it. I'd strongly suggest not doing it. If you did happen to see this question on a Facebook post, look at the answers. Hundreds of people are going to yell, sometimes quite rudely, no, don't do it. It's a waste of your time, waste of your money. The only time, caveat, the only time I would think about going to a flight attendant training school would be is if you were under 21 and you weren't going to be able to fly anyway for a major carrier. If you had unlimited funds, if your parents have all the money in the world and they just want to throw money at you and make sure you're happy, and you have plenty of time and no other obligations like a regular school, like college or whatever, would I do it? Maybe. Maybe. You're going to learn some stuff like city codes and proper demeanor and how to dress and how to present yourself. You're going to learn a lot of really great things, many of which you're going to have to unlearn. But if I had the money and the time and I weren't eligible to fly for an airline yet, or even I wasn't applying for a job as a flight attendant, would I? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But I'd do it more, not like a vacation, but more more for fun. Because I'll tell you, if I could go through training all over again and not be stressed about not getting the job, not passing everything, not getting that job, it could have been a lot more fun. And, looking back, if I had unlimited funds, I think I'd even create like a whole vacation resort for flight attendants who kind of enjoyed training, oh my God, that would be cool. A resort to help prepare for our renewal each year, for our requalification each year. Go away to a resort for 2 weeks. Wouldn't it be nice? All right, so I have answered. Those were only 4 questions, but it took me quite a while. No shock to talk about them. Right now, I'm going to make the dogs very sad. The puppies are going to go back in the house, into their beds, because I'm leaving the house for the day and the guys are gone. I'm going to head into Atlanta. Boy, they either caught something or they're just having a good time. They ran back in the house. I'm going to head back into Midtown to my favorite falafel joint for lunch, then make my way to the Atlanta airport. At some point, I'm going to do a video about commuting and how difficult it can be, because a lot of people think it's easy. I'm not commuting since I have a studio in Vegas. But, I do come here very often. To get back to Las Vegas on a busy month, everything is oversold. And so I've booked 3 different tickets with enough time between flights that I could get to that terminal or that gate if I didn't get on the flight before. And there's a number of Delta flights that are going there tonight. But Delta's, I almost never get on Delta. So I'm going to get to the airport hopefully about 4:30. The last flight I can probably get on easily is sometime after 10 p.m. So there's a chance I could be in the airport for 4, 5, 6 hours. If that turns into an absolute crap show, I might make a video about commuting when I'm at the airport. I might have the time. So until next time, I will talk to you later. I'll give you one little peek at the luxuriant verdancy I'm not sure if that's really a word, of the backyard here in Atlanta. And then I will say goodbye and fly safe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Mm. Oh, isn't it lovely?